Hello everyone, it's your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, here with another exciting live stream. Today is June 8th, 2019. I'm going to be talking about yesterday, June 7th, 2019. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day today. Today, the main thing that I did, I got to hang out with Aiden for a bit. I actually ate with I used to only be able to get sausage biscuits for $1, but once they started making the McGriddles $1, they got me. So I got three sausage McGriddles. I got a large fry, and then I got a large strawberry shake with like Oreos in it. I'm like, McDonald's is getting a lot better now that these McGriddles are $1. It's fucking insane. But I actually really enjoyed hanging out with Aiden. We went to campus because he had like some stuff they had to do on campus, and then we went back to his place. We hung out for a bit. We watched some Hunter x Hunter. I'm glad that he's still vibing with Hunter x Hunter. It seems like he's racing through it. He's really enjoying it so far. But he doesn't know if he's gonna keep enjoying it once it gets past the parts where they don't have powers. Like now he's at the part of Hunter x Hunter where they're talking about like Nin and stuff like that, and he's like, I kind of don't like that they're introducing superpowers. I hope that he like still enjoys the show as it continues forward. He seems to not really like Killua, and he feels like Leorio is one of his favorite characters, which is interesting. I definitely like that we don't necessarily like the same things about the show because I feel like that means in the future when we talk about the show that we'll be looking at it from very different perspectives and can have like rather interesting conversations. Excuse me. But we got to do a very small session of his game, literally whatever. It was only about like 13 minutes long or so, and it seemed um, there wasn't really enough time to really do anything. I like to a lot of times when I'm in like an RPG to get like a feel for my surroundings, know what like is going on in the space, and then try and play it smart, like figure out, what I can do, what I can't do, kind of thing. So within that 13 minutes of playing literally whatever, all I really did was kind of like scope out what was in the room. Like it wasn't like a big enough thing for us to actually have like a full on adventure. So let's see. So played literally whatever. After that, Aiden took me back to the crib. Once I got back to Dad's house, Dad and his wife got home, and then we went to Station Retro. Tonight they had comic book movie trivia. Now I did think I was gonna do a lot better in the comic book trivia than I actually did, but I still kind of ended up doing the same as I always do, more or less. Um, because it ends. Well, that's not necessarily true. Because I think I was ahead of Colin. Um, I think Dad was in the lead. But for the comic book movie trivia, I thought I'd do a lot better than I did. Dad has just been dominating it. He's been like doing a really good job. Yo, Beth, welcome to the stream. It's good to have you. How's your day today? Do you have any questions for your boy? And do you have any discussion topics you'd like to talk about on the stream? Beth said, "Guess who failed at going to bed early?" Oh, it happens. It happens. I hope that you're able to like get a good night's sleep. Um, but yeah, Station Retro went well. My brother was gonna try and come and play with us. He arrived a little late, but so did Colin, so it didn't really matter. The issue ended up being that he promised someone that he was gonna like give him a ride home, and then he like went to try and give him a ride home, and then they were like, I actually don't need the ride for like another like 30 minutes or so. And then he's like, then why'd you like call me over like early? And it's like, well, if you're here, I might as well just go now. It was just like a big mess, but he ended up missing most of trivia. Like he ended up arriving after trivia was over. So he was there before it started and he got back when it ended. But he like ate his food and we talked a little bit. We talked about like comic books and stuff like that. And then he dipped. Let's see. Beth said, "You too." Oh, thank you, Beth. I appreciate it. So then I stayed at Station Retro. Gerard and Colin, um, Gerard, Colin, Zach, and Josh all were like playing like Magic the Gathering. While they were doing that, I mainly like texted with Beth and I was working on publishing another book on Amazon. Last night I didn't go to bed until like 4 a.m. or so. I was working on a new book, Bolt Bones Superhero Tabletop Lit RPG. A lit RPG is pretty much just like a book that goes over a story, but the story takes place within a game. In this particular case, it takes place in like a tabletop role playing game, not unlike a D&D kind of experience, but it's like a superhero game. So the main character is like a superhero and he has amnesia and he's trying to learn more about like himself and the story culminates into a big battle between him and like a deadly foe from his past. And it's actually a pretty interesting story. It's told through a dialogue between like a player and a game master, and whenever he has to like roll a die, it like shows like his rolls and his modifiers, and you can tell how whenever he rolls really well, the things that he wants to happen. I mean, sorry, the things that he wants to happen, and then when he rolls poorly, you can tell how things don't necessarily go his way. And the dialogue between the player and the game master really help you understand like how high does the roll need to be for him to like achieve his goal, what might happen if he like doesn't roll a high enough number. And the way that I wrote the book, I actually legitimately did the dice rolls, which I really like. So I don't just make up the rolls and the results, I just do them, and then I like see where the story's going from that point. So potentially, the characters, whenever I write books like that, can lose if I just like flub too many roles, which I think is actually pretty interesting. But I've submitted that for publishing. It's called Bolt Bones Superhero Tabletop Lit RPG. It's in review. The ebook will probably be published in like the next few hours. The paperback will probably be published within like the next couple days or so. So definitely look out for that. If you keep up with any of my books on Amazon, and trust, I do publish a lot, so I understand. Let's see. So after they play Magic the Gathering for a bit, Josh, Colin, Gerard, and I head back down to Colin's apartment to play fighting games. We played Tekken 7 and we played Blaze Blue. Both were pretty fun. I do feel like when we first started playing Tekken 7, I was really rusty. I had like kind of forgotten like a few things, but I eventually like got my groove. I started doing like pretty well. We went then from Tekken 7 to Blaze Blue, and in Blaze Blue, I feel like it didn't take as long for me to like get back into the flow of things of like how Blaze Blue works. But I definitely enjoyed hanging out with the guys and like playing fighting games. Aiden had like ordered a pizza, and he was in an interesting situation where the pizza guy was like, "Oh, I forgot to bring your soda." So then the pizza guy went to like a gas station and like bought Aiden a soda, which I've never heard of anything like that before, but I thought it was really interesting. Me and Aiden got to talk a little bit. He's watching Black Mirror, and he was telling me about like a new Black Mirror episode. Not gonna spoil anything, like not gonna tell you like the plot, but it seemed like kind of interesting and kind of weird. But it seemed enjoyable. So it started getting late. Josh showed us a clip of Van Helsing abridged or whatever. I'm not really into it, so I just kind of sat around while they did that. And then they started talking about this anime called Drifters, which I'm not really into that either. So during that, I like hung out with Aiden for a bit. He told me a little bit more about the Black Mirror episode. And then that's around the time that Josh was like, "Hey," and me and Gerard went back home. So then once I got back home, yesterday I made a pretty bad deck. It wasn't very good at all. And the whole point of the deck was to equip monsters with Moon Mirror Shield so that they could like run over any opponent's monster and just give them the dig. White Veil, which essentially protects your monster from like spells and traps whenever they're like attacking, and Rainbow Veil, where it essentially gives your monster the ability to negate your opponent's monster's effects when you swing. So if you have all three equip cards, you can hit over your opponent's monster no matter how strong they are. You can make sure that your monster is immune to your opponent's spell and trap cards, and that your monster is immune to your opponent's monster effects. So pretty much, you're giving your monster a whole bunch of protection while also making them stronger than your opponent. At least that was the idea of the deck yesterday, but yesterday's deck was hot garbage. So now I've made an updated version of the deck that's split mainly into four sections of 10 cards. One section is based on like monster removal. Another section is based on spell and trap card removal. Another section is based on the equips that you need. And another section is based off of the field play spell card. So instead of actually running monsters in this deck, there is one monster in the deck, but it's mainly used to search the field spell. I'm running a field spell that lets you summon a token whenever your opponent activates like a card or effect, but you can only summon one token. So the idea is that I use the field spell, my opponent does something which gives me a token, and then I use that token on my turn, in order to give it like equips, and then I like supercharge it. And then Ryan said, "Hi, deck. Are you describing your deck so I can win?" Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. Yo, Ryan, welcome to the stream. It's good to have you. How's your day today? Do you have any questions for your boy? And do you have any discussion topics you'd like to talk about on the stream? Mm. But I came home. I started working on that deck, and then I started up the stream. I really haven't done much else. Josh, this is my first time meeting Josh. He seems like a pretty cool dude. He makes like the windows for like stealth bomber jets. It seems like he has like a really like high end gaming computer that he's made, which sounds really impressive. I don't know a lot about hardware. I'm like a big software guy, so a lot of the stuff that he was talking about was kind of like going over my head. But I thought it was interesting. Um, he used to play, I think, a lot more fighting games back in the day. And he was playing fighting games with us, and you could tell that he was like getting his feet wet, but I still felt like he was like a competent player. He seems like a fun, like pretty chill guy. He's into Magic the Gathering. I'm not super into Magic the Gathering. He's into like Helsing a Bridge. I'm not super into Helsing a Bridge, but he seems like a good dude. Let's see. Then Ryan said, "Do you want to discuss phrenology?" To which then Beth said, "What is phrenology?" Um, I also do not know what phrenology is, uh, but I also don't know if I want to discuss it. Let's see. Kel says a term used to politely address someone. Used to polite. Oh, that was Kels. I thought you were defining phrenology. Yo, Kels, welcome to the stream. It's good to have you. How's your day today? Do you have any questions for your boy? And do you have any discussion topics you'd like to talk about on the stream? Ryan said you don't want to discuss it. I don't know what it is. Maybe not. I'd rather discuss other things more likely than not. But yeah, like open question to like everybody on the stream. How's your day today? Do you have any questions? And do you have any discussion topics you'd like to talk about? I guess this is him. This is Ryan's discussion topic he's proposing, phrenology. He says it's the pseudoscience involving skull sizes and shapes in regards to race. Skull sizes and shapes in regards to race. And then Kel said the real question is, what is society? And then Ryan said NIQ. Oh, yeah, at first when you were like skull sizes and shapes in terms of like race, I'm like I actually took like a online class thing that was like a forensics thing and it talked about how like you can see different skulls and based on different features you can tell like things about the person, but not stuff like IQ, just like you can tell if it was like a male or female based off of like the skull and due to certain details you can tell like ethnicity differences. Um, but it was never like a IQ thing. I think that's where it gets more into like the pseudoscience part. I wasn't very good at that online class because you have to just get used to generic features that aren't necessarily like hard universals. So they'll show you a skull like in a quiz, and then you have to like try and figure out as many things about the person the skull is from as you can. And then Ryan said a specific example of scientific racism. And then Kel said, "Did Winslow say anything about the fan art besides the Facebook responses?" He didn't. I want to hear more about how Winslow feels about the fan art. Because I was thinking about that earlier today. Because I don't know. I really love it when I receive fan art. Winslow, the Facebook responses, I can't tell if he's like hard vibing or if he's just like, just shrugging. But I would really like to know like if he's really vibing with the fan art or not. Ryan said at the height of popularity of phrenology, the demand for skulls rose and created an industry of stealing people and defleshing them for skulls. That actually reminds me of I watched like two different documentaries on this. In Tanzania, I may be pronouncing the name wrong. It's like a country in Africa, I believe. In Tanzania, um, they believe that albino people are magical. Which, when they said that, I kind of thought that they were going to say that albino people were revered, but that's not the case at all. In Tanzania, I don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce it. They will like go out of their way to find albino people and then like take off their limbs or whatever, like cut off like their hands or like their arms or something, and then take them to a witch doctor. And witch doctors then will use that to make like potions that they can sell for really high prices. But whoever brings them the limbs of an albino, they'll promise them that like you're like magically protected and like no one can mess with you now. It's like you have like the best kind of like defense magic you could like imagine or whatever. So people will go out of their way to just randomly go up to albino people and be like, Shh, got him, and then like just do that. And then it's not like the witch doctor performs a ceremony or anything. It's just you give them the limb, and then they're like, you're good. You just have that magic protection now. And it was weird to see the documentary because it talked about how albino people a lot of times end up putting themselves in like hiding and they can't like work normal jobs and stuff like that because they're just in constant fear of like being attacked for who they are. And like, wow, that's hella dangerous living. But that's what I thought about when you brought that up, Ryan. It sounds like a not a similar thing, because yours, I guess, a similar thing. It's kind of weird, actually, um, because yours is based off of like a pseudoscience thing, and mine is based off of like a weird like superstition thing. But I guess they're like somewhat close, like in concept. Okay, let me hit that live chat. That way I can see what everybody is saying. So Ryan said Tanzania is a country in Africa, and he put up the Wikipedia page for Tanzania. And then Kel said, I guess they can try to get a spray tan. um, if they had like money, yeah. If they showed like albino families and stuff, and how they more or less were living in like poverty and in fear. Like albino people who are like in public just aren't in public because they're like getting killed. So that it was just a huge problem. There was a guy who was like albino, and he was an advocate against like stopping the superstition, and he told a story about how like he set up a security system thing on his door, and someone like broke in his house and like tried to attack him or whatever. And it was a really crazy story. Like he's like, if you're albino, you're just not safe because it's like someone is just gonna like come after you, trying to essentially gain magical power by like dismembering you. And I honestly think I'd watch a horror movie that was like that. I think I would legitimately watch a horror movie about like an albino person in like Tanzania, and they're like just trying not to get dismembered. Let's see. Ryan said Mount Kilimanjaro, Africa's highest mountain, is in northeastern Tanzania. And then he said the United Republic of Tanzania. People with albinism living in Tanzania are often attacked, killed, or mutilated because of superstitions related to black magical practice known as muti that say body parts of albinos have magical properties. Yeah. There are like a couple documentaries on YouTube. Like if any of this like sounds like weird or interesting, you want to know more, I'd highly recommend looking at those documentaries because they cover the lives of like real albino people, and they'll visit like the homes of albino people, and they'll like tell their story. They talked to this one guy who was like a member of like the government, and he's like, yeah, we're afraid that because our police force is so small, we have like vigilante groups that will like organize and will be like, you guys aren't official police, but we don't have enough police to spread to this area. So you guys more or less are like the law here. They're like, we're afraid that they're doing like witch trial shit and they're like killing albinos. So I'm gonna get a whole bunch of those vigilante groups like together, and I'm gonna talk to them and go like, hey, that's not okay. And then it shows him doing that, and I was like, that's interesting, because he didn't have like a real way to reprimand them as much as he was just like, I'm gonna tell them that's bad, and it's like, ooh. But they did reprimand like a whole town. They did like a weird like witch burning thing to like one of the albino women, and they were like, that whole town is just being considered like guilty and like her murder. And I'm like, wow, imagine like living in a town and it's like, hey, didn't they like burn Stacy last week? Yeah, what were you doing? oh man, I didn't want any part of that. I was just asleep in my house. There's no evidence for that. You're in trouble. Everyone's being charged for like murder, and it's like, whew. Nah, I should have just moved that day. Just lived in another town. Kel said sighs disappointedly. He said, I want to have magical powers. Well, I think that's the part that's weird. The concept that albino body parts have magical powers, but albinos aren't considered like special in a way to where like they get any special privileges. If anything, they're like the least privileged members of that society. Meanwhile, witch doctors, who are people who are like, I practice magic, are accepted members of society. So I don't understand it. Because it's like the albino people are like, I'm not magical. I'm just albino. I don't have any weird powers. And they're like, oh, I gotta like cut off your limbs. What, you're trying to work a normal job? You're just probably gonna die, and that's just like accepted. And then witch doctors are like, I do have magical powers. Bring me the limbs of an albino. And they're like, you have oh cool, we're cool with you. That's just a job you can have. Oh, that's awesome. They did talk about how witch doctors, it's now not legal for them to do the albino stuff. So they were like, it's illegal for witch doctors to like do the whole albino thing, but it seems like they just can do it under the table. You know what I mean? Especially since the witch doctors themselves don't like mutilate them. Other people bring them the parts, so it doesn't really matter. They can just be like, "Oh, you did? Cool." And they interviewed a witch doctor, and like in one of the documentaries, and he's like, "I used to like do the albino stuff." He's like, "It's illegal now, so I just don't." And I was like, I guess we can just take his word for it, but we really don't know. I think it's interesting for anyone to admit, like, yeah, I used to take body parts and turn them into potions, but they made that a crime, so I just don't. Ryan said it says Tanzania is a unitary dominant party presidential socialist constitutional republic. I don't know what all those words mean when they're put together. Kel said, it's a really fun, happy, and uplifting conversation. Understandable. If you want to blame anyone for the current chain of conversation, Ryan brought up phrenology, which made me think about the Tanzania thing, which is how we got here. So Ryan is the source of us getting to this point. If anyone wants to bring up any other discussion topics, I'm totally fine with it. I brought up Google Stadia a couple times while I was hanging out with Colin, Gerard, and Josh. And Colin's like, I don't care about Google Stadia. So then it just didn't matter. And I try to bring it up whenever it was like topical. So it would be a thing where Colin's like, "Hey, is anyone excited for like Samurai Showdown?" And I'm like, "They announced that Samurai Showdown is for Google Stadia. They're gonna like launch it on like Google Stadia." And Colin's like, "I don't care." And then we were playing like an anime fighting game, and I was like, I can't get mom into like anime fighters. She prefers stuff like Mortal Kombat. Um, I can't even get her into like Dragon Ball Fighter Z. And then I was like, it's weird that Dragon Ball Fighter Z isn't on Google Stadia, because if it was, I think it would be like really dope. Instead, we got like Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. And then they still didn't care. And then they were talking about how Josh mentioned how he liked Mortal Kombat 9 because it was like a faster paced game, and he was like, Mortal Kombat 10 just got too slow. And then Gerard talked about how 11 was good, and I was like, yeah, Mortal Kombat 11 is on Google Stadia, and no, I can't get anybody to talk about Stadia, but I'm hype. I'm like super hyped for it. Everyone else just seems to not care. Kel said, so he admitted to accepting body parts for Sunny D or some shit, and they didn't arrest him? Well, there's this thing called like ex post facto or whatever, where certain areas it's legal for you to get in trouble for a crime that wasn't a crime when you did it, but a lot of places aren't like that. Well, I can't say a lot of places aren't like that. I can say the US isn't like that. Of course, this is taking place in Africa, but if they have similar laws to what we have, it's a thing where today it's totally fine if you step on ants and you kill them. But let's say tomorrow a law passes where it's like it's no longer legal to kill ants. They're not gonna just arrest everybody who's ever killed an ant. They'd be like, from the point the law was put in forward, it's illegal for you to kill ants. So it's just a similar thing. It's like, so you used to like turn people into potions. And he's like, yeah. And it's like, at the time, that was legal. And he's like, yeah. And they're like, you're good. Just don't do it again. If you do it again, like, it's a serious crime. But you did it before it was illegal. So it's all good. Pretty much. Because what are you going to do? Because you could get on to him and be like, what you did was wrong. And it's like, at the time, it wasn't. So, yeah. It does seem like Tanzania is trying to crack down on it. But it just seems like they don't have enough power to really do that. They don't have a strong enough like police presence to actually like enforce those laws. Ryan said also bills of attainder are also forbidden in the US. So I don't know what that is. So I imagine Ryan's gonna like define that. And then Kel said maybe the albino people should just take their limbs just in spite. You mean take other people's limbs? That'd be fucking crazy. Like earlier, I mentioned that this already sounds like a crazy horror movie. Like if you covered like a traveling albino in Tanzania who's just trying to run away from people who are trying to collect their body parts. Like that already sounds like a crazy horror movie. Now I'm imagining that as a revenge movie. So the first half of the movie is them running away from people who are trying to dismember them. And then the second half of the movie, let's say they like lose their hand. Like they get away from the attackers, but maybe they lose like their left hand. So they start getting like prosthetics to use as weapons, and then they go after their attackers. So when their attackers are trying to like track them down, they're like setting traps like Home Alone and shit, and like murdering them and like cutting off their limbs. That would be a crazy like horror revenge flick. I'd watch that. That sounds like it would be like interestingly dark. Ryan said, a bill of attainder, also known as an act of attainder or writ of attainder or bills of pains and penalties, is an act of legislator declaring a person or group of persons guilty of some crime and punishing them without trial. A person or group of persons. The United States Constitution forbids legislative bills of attainder, and federal law under articles a bunch of bullshit. Skip to the thing. The fact that they were banned even under state law reflects the importance that the framers attached to this issue. What is that in English, Ryan? I'm not a fan of when the definition is like the act of legislator declaring a person or group of persons guilty of a crime and punishing them without a trial. What's like an example of that? I just don't fully understand with that alone. And I feel like the additional parts where it's like under article this section this like didn't help. And then Ryan said it's like passing a law saying we declare Jet guilty of treason. So you can't pass a law that just straight up says that a person or group of people are just immediately guilty and like need to be punished without trial. And then Ryan said like personally like singling you out or like singling like a group out. Understandable. Okay, so I think I understand now. At first I wasn't entirely clear on it. It would be like if they passed a law saying like anybody who watched jet streams is guilty of this and they all have to like go to jail, no trial. It would be like that kind of thing. Because it's like a person's or group of persons. Just be like, ah, aha, I got him. Mm. That's interesting, I suppose. Let's see. Oh, Kells. Have you done any like artwork today? Not necessarily fan art, but have you just like drawn anything today? Because I know that you like to draw. Or like written anything? Because I know that you like to write fan fiction, like stuff like that. Not necessarily fan fiction, but you know what I mean. Like, have you like drawn or written anything like cool today? Just checking in, trying to see if you've been doing any creative stuff. I'd be interested in writing tonight because last night I had like a stroke of inspiration. I was just going hard on like writing the lit RPG thing I was telling you guys about. But um I have a date tomorrow. I don't want to push it. I don't want it to be a thing where it's like, oh, I'm gonna like type out this book. I'm gonna write a whole book because that's what I did last night. I don't want a thing where it's like I'm gonna write a whole book and then go to bed and then you wake up at like noon and then the date's like in 3 hours or something like that. Um, I'd rather wake up at like a reasonable time and have more than enough time to get ready. And if I want to do anything before the date, I just can and get it out of the way. Kel said, I haven't done any creative stuff today. Spent the whole day at a friend's birthday party. It was really fun. Oh, cool. I'm glad that you had fun. Happy birthday to your friend. Any like cool stories from the birthday party? Like, was there any like cool activity? Did you guys like go somewhere? Was there like a cake? Did they go like fuck a normal cake? It's like an ice cream cake or a cheesecake or a pie, because pie is just better, or a pull apart cake, or it's just cupcakes that are just all next to each other and they make up a big cake, but you can just pull it apart, as they say. Yo, Nani, welcome to the stream. It's good to have you. How's your day today? Do you have any questions for your boy? And do you have any discussion topics you'd like to talk about on the stream? It's good to have you, Nani. Welcome. Bow. Mm. Nani said, did Colin do anything today? Things have been like pretty chill. Um, not really, nope. Um, not anything that like inherently bothered me or anything. Like I said, I had like a talk with Colin. Aiden had a talk with Colin. Things have just been pretty chill. Like things are just good. So yeah, like nothing weird to report or anything like that. Things are good, which is what you'd want, right? Like I prefer that things be good. Then Ryan said that Colin overthrow capitalism. No. There we go. This is the easy questions today. Mm. Nani said, what does he think about pseudo intellectual? So, Colin and Gerard still will refer to Ryan as a pseudo intellectual, which I think is weird. I just feel like they never hang out with Ryan and they don't regularly talk to Ryan. So, based off of the few interactions they've had, they're kind of like making an assumption. So, I don't know. I just think it's not really worth it. Kel said we played What Are the Odds in a jacuzzi, and the dares devolved into this guy kiss that guy. What are the odds? I don't think I've ever heard of that game before. And then Nani said Gerard too. I thought it was only Colin. Gerard and Colin will refer to Ryan as a pseudo intellectual on occasions. Ryan said, "Who is de jure intellectual?" De jure. When I said de jure, I thought you. I my brain was like de journo. De Who is a de journo intellectual? It's not delivery. Let's see. What are like any more like questions or like discussion topics you like to talk about? Nani said, "Dang, Ryan got murked." I mean, not really. I just feel like it's a lot to, in very few interactions with someone, be like, I got this person down pat, and I'm like gonna just call them like this term, and I'm gonna refer to them as that to like other people, but I don't really know them and I don't really spend time with them regularly. I just think that's kind of weird. Just seems unnecessary. Kells then said, "What are the odds is when you dare someone to do something and you pick a number between 1 through 5. If you both say the same number, he has to do the dare. Interesting. So it's not like truth or dare, where someone potentially can just pick truth and get out of like doing a dare. It's just straight up guessing game, more or less. Kind of truth or dare. That's kind of interesting. Then Ryan said Matt is a pseudo intellectual because he didn't vibe with Phil more. I think Ryan's just giving an example of how having few interactions with someone and then like just calling them like a pseudo intellectual, even though you don't really know them and like get to know them, it can just kind of be like a ridiculous thing. And then Ryan said, "Remember, kids, Fillmore has an exclamation point in the title." Fillmore, I think is like a good show. The other day, I was reading a comic. I was reading Savage Dragon, and a bald black guy showed up in the comic, and I gave him Fillmore's voice in my head. And then Ryan said, "Anyone who forgets this obviously is a pseudo intellectual." Um, what are the odds? Seems like an interesting game. I feel like most games that are based on like dares are like social pressure games. They're games where it's like you probably wouldn't do these things necessarily, but because you are put in a situation where everyone's more or less agreed to like rules, you immediately are under peer pressure when like given the dare. Unless those in the environment agree like that dare like isn't fair, you know, if it's like that, then you can maybe get out of it. But if not, then it's like, hey, we I would do that if it was given to me. It just isn't. So, you know, I'm not necessarily gonna say they're like bully games, but they're kind of weird. I do feel like they're odd, like pressure people into doing things games. Nani said Adam Warlock versus Alien X. Adam Warlock versus Alien X. Adam Warlock is very powerful. I don't know a lot about Adam Warlock personally. I do have like a Marvel character encyclopedia, but it's like upstairs in my room, and it's like after midnight, so I'm pretty sure the folks are asleep. So I'm not gonna like go upstairs, and it's like in a bin too. So I had to like open a bin. I'd have to dig through all my shit and like get it. Um, Adam Warlock is a pretty powerful character. I guess it depends on what Adam Warlock has, because I've seen Adam Warlock like have the Infinity Stones and like do shit with them. And it also depends on what his normal powers are. Alien X is like a pretty powerful force. I think Adam Warlock, without anything else, without knowing his powers, this is me just guessing, probably loses to Alien X, unless Adam Warlock alone, without any Infinity Stones, is like a reality manipulator. Like, unless he's that level, I think Alien X probably dicks him. If it's Adam Warlock with some Infinity Stones, maybe, because I feel like he then is a reality manipulator. That's essentially what the stones let you do. Um, so who knows? It's kind of like a toss up. But Alien X can do stuff with like a thought. So it really depends on like how quickly you can do things with the stones. Because the movies make it seem like sometimes you gotta snap, sometimes you gotta like close your fist to like use the power. So it's kind of weird. Uh, let's see. Ryan said Alien X has a small dick. We've never seen Alien X's dick. Cannot confirm or deny. Plus, Alien X can like manipulate like his size and shape and shit like that. So he probably could have as small or as big of a dick as he wants. So I would say if there was like a stat block for Alien X, and one of the stats was like dick size, Alien X's dick size would be variable. Um, Kells said, so I had an idea for my Ultimatrix. Still working on the name. Okay, Kells, feel free to hit me up with your Ultimatrix idea. I'd be more than happy to hear it. Also, I like what Nani did a moment ago, and I like what Kells is doing. If you guys have like any cool ideas for like stories or characters or who would win in a fight scenarios or like hypotheticals, feel free to ask me. I'm definitely down to like discuss them. Let's see. Ryan said, but Alien X doesn't have sex, so he doesn't need a big dick. Well, I feel like it's a thing where if Alien X wanted to, it could just have sex. Like if it just wanted to do it, because it's a reality manipulator, you can just kind of do whatever. Nani said, "Why would Ryan even care?" And then he said, "Gay confirmed." Then Ryan said, "Hypothetically, who has the biggest dick?" Reality manipulators can just give themselves the biggest dick. Anyone who like manipulates reality can kind of just do whatever. Then Ryan's like Galactus. I feel like Alien X could just think his dick's bigger, and he just can beat Galactus. So I just feel like Alien X still wins if it's literally a big dick contest. Nani said, let me think. I guess Nani's gonna humor you on that one. Uh, but yeah, Kels, I would like to hear your idea for the Ultimatrix that you're working on. I also would like to hear any name ideas that you have. Dodoria said, "Are you letting your hair grow like a beautiful woman?" I'm letting my hair grow out. Uh, Not necessarily like a beautiful woman, but yeah, I am letting it grow. Nani said, "Alien X versus the Hulk." Are you talking about like in a fight, Nani? Or are you talking about like the weird dick thing that Ryan's talking about? And then he said versus like the Immortal Hulk. Alien X could probably just make the Immortal Hulk not exist by thinking. He could just be like, "You don't exist," and then Immortal Hulk just wouldn't exist. And Immortal Hulk doesn't really have a defense against that. We've seen Immortal Hulk like get dismembered and his body parts animate and his body like stitch back together and stuff like that. I don't think we've seen Immortal Hulk survive being essentially Hakkai'd. So I think he would lose. In terms of like dick size, I think Hulk probably has a small dick. So Alien X wins because he can just reality manipulate himself the dick. Game. Um, Ryan said that he's done that. He's done the thing where he's like let his hair grow out. And then he said his hair was awful. So in a fight, I think Immortal Hulk tries to like bash Alien X, and then Alien X is unfazed, and then just kind of like zoops, makes Hulk not exist. Kel said, "I do a DNA override by making the upgrade DNA take over the Ultimatrix. Then it'll scan my brainwaves to generate the perfect combination of aliens for the situation I'm in." Your DNA override, the way it's described, just sounds like master control with a like multi-trix system. Like if the bi-omnitrix is two omnitrixes slamming together to give you a combination of two aliens, then a multi-trix system instead of a bi-omnitrix system would be essentially the use of like as many omnitrixes as you needed to combine you into multiple aliens but master control. So I could see you having like multiple watches, like multiple like omnitrixes or whatever, and having master control on all of them, and more or less being able to go like, with this one I turn into this alien, and with this one I turn into this alien, and with this one I turn into this alien, but also having like maybe an AI, so that AI can more or less understand based on your thoughts like what alien combinations you need, and then like set all the different omnitrixes up the way that you need them, and then you transform into all of them simultaneously, letting you become like a combined form kind of thing. But I don't think you necessarily need the upgrade DNA take over the Ultimatrix thing. I don't think you necessarily need that. Um, Master control and multiple watches sounds like it could satisfy what you're looking for. Also, in the Ben 10 reboot, they've established that inside the Omnitrix there are all these like vats of DNA, and that if the vat accidentally gets like pushed into another vat, it can contaminate it, which is what allowed for like omni enhanced forms to occur. Um, and that's just like the equivalent of like a bi omnitrix thing. So if you had an Ultimatrix that was designed where you could cause vat mixtures, you wouldn't even need more than one watch. You could just like with the Ultimatrix alone, maybe make some modifications with like gray matter. Um, Make it where with master control you can cause vat mixes and transform using the mixes, I think that could satisfy what you're looking for, hypothetically. Ryan said Alien X is banned from hypotheticals because his dick is too big to be calculated. Then Nani said, "Whoa, Nick, I don't care about the D talk." And then Ryan said, "Why would you not care?" Gay confirmed. And then Nani said, "Cause I'm not Ryan or Kels." And then Kel said, "Lol." Nani said, "Like, what kind of question is that? Why would you not care?" And then he said, "This guy's gay." Then Ryan said, "Buy Omnitrix, but the second alien is always Shock Rock." That's pretty much what Omni enhanced forms were. By the way, they're making a slushy in the other room. Please excuse like the plunger sound. Nani said, Kells versus Nick. Both have an Omnitrix. I think Kells would win. You think Kells would win? No offense to Kells. I did have an offended voice when you said that. Why do you think Kells would win if it was me versus Kells and we both have an Omnitrix? I personally think Clockwork is probably like the strongest alien when it comes to like a combat situation. Because he can more or less just like make time like not move, and then he could just kind of like dick you. So I think if I was in a fight, I'd probably turn into Clockwork to kind of goot Kells before he could really do anything. If we both just had like a normal Omnitrix, I think I could get him. Ryan said if Rukia had a dick, would you let her fuck you, Nani? That's a very vulgar statement. Definitely worth getting demonetized. Kel said I would still do the DNA override thing because I like making things elaborate. Fair enough. Then Kel said besides Alien X, which alien has the biggest dick? So if you don't count Alien X, we haven't seen any of these aliens' dicks. I wouldn't know. And then Ryan said way big dick. Who knows? We don't know. Nani said reason why is because the gayness makes the Omnitrix stronger, and Ryan is a part of the power, so it makes it gayer. Nani said therefore Kells will win. Ryan then said, but I'm not gay. And then Nani said, I would make Rukia fuck you, Ryan. What is this conversation? This is like hard devolving. Kel said, Nani, you should work for Death Battle. Then Nani said, lol. Um, Omnitrix who would win battles are like pretty interesting though. I think Clockwork is definitely my go-to in like most fight scenarios. Um, though if not Clockwork, then Amphibian, but Amphibian is put at like a weird disadvantage because the issue that you don't want in a fight, you don't want to get speed blitzed, and Clockwork more or less can just not get speed blitzed. He can be like, I slow down time and then I move at incredibly fast speeds because like I can move through time however I want, and I can like hyper age you while time is paused. So I can pretty much like eternity death blow you like bzzz, and like hit you with like a time ray and you just like turn to dust or whatever. Ryan said, "What would you rather talk about, fascism or like big dicks?" Neither. Neither, actually. Those are some hella troll topics. Nani said, I'm glad I'm into Ben 10 now. It's dope. Alien X is one of my favorites now. I'm glad that you're like really vibing, Nani, with Ben 10. I actually really dig it. Have you been watching it? And if so, like, what have you been watching? Because Ben 10 Omniverse is my favorite Ben 10 series. But I'm also watching some of the reboot, but it's not really coming out in order online because I watch it on like Kim Cartoon. It's just like random episodes, and I'd rather be able to just watch season three, just all of season three, like as it's happening. It'd be really good. Kel said, I thought you would just go to Armoron just for the design. I love Armoron. I thought for the Omnitrix fight, since Nani was like who would win Kel's versus Jet and they're wearing the Omnitrixes, I thought Nani just meant like the normal Omnitrix. I didn't think he meant like our custom stuff. If we're doing a fight and we're using the custom stuff, um, you have like the Ultimatrix thing that lets you turn into like the perfect thing for whatever situation you're in. Um, I I don't know. I don't know because I know that that's vague. That's really vague. So you turn into essentially the perfect combination for whatever you're in. Um, and I have my custom like splicer. Clockwork is just safe. It's just a really safe choice. Nothing against Armoron. I love the design, but Armoron doesn't have the ability to just be like, I can kind of end this fight before it even starts. And that's what Clockwork can do. Even if you turned into Alien X kills, I could be like times paused, and Alien X we've seen is still like subject to time. So it's not like you're Jiren. You're not gonna like be like I'm stronger than time and like resist it. So since you're still subject to time, I can just be like, oh cool. So you're stuck, but I have as long as I want and need to just do what I need to do to win this fight, and then you just win the fight. Let's see. Ryan said Fillmore greater than Ben 10, medium dick. Then Nani said I still haven't, but I really like the design of the characters. I'm glad that you vibe it. Let's see. Nani said Nick Lantern versus Omnitrix Nick. So me with like a Green Lantern ring versus me with an Omnitrix. I think Clockwork just wins again. Clockwork I feel like is really cheap. He's just like, oh, time's paused. I guess you can't do anything. Oh, time. I paused time. Oh, you age. Oh, cool. I'm gonna age you to death. You're dust. I aged like your atoms. Like you don't exist. Goodbye. And then you unpause time. The fight's like over before it starts. Ryan said when Ben's relatives fucked magical purple aliens. That's canon. That's true. Kel said the drawback to the DNA override is that it takes away a crap ton of the watch's energy, and the watch isn't very stable, so activating the DNA override is risky. Kels has gone into what we call full fan fiction logic territory, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine for your Ultimatrix. Um, but it's interesting because it's a thing where you kind of get to make up how it works, and then you're like, but it has limitations, and then it's like we can just only take your word for it, I guess. I guess that's how it works. And then Nani said, but the death battle, Nick, lol, and he said JK. Then Ryan said Clockwork versus Time Wizard. Um, in Yu-Gi-Oh, if we talk about like anime Time Wizard, did anime Time Wizard ever straight up pause time? And if so, what did that do for the duel? Was it like a stalling tactic? The duel can't continue as long as Time Wizard keeps time paused. It's like, what? And then Nani said, Clockwork versus Omnitrix Nick. So me with an Omnitrix versus Clockwork? Well, now it's dependent on if Clockwork is smart. Like if the Clockwork I'm fighting is intelligent or not. That will make the biggest difference. Um, I think I go for Amphibian. Amphibian has intangibility. I try and turn intangible as soon as possible. And then even with time paused, he can't hit me with time rays because they phase through me. At least that'd be like the hope. And then if Clockwork unpause time, Amphibian can read minds. Amphibian has like telepathy. So I could like read Clockwork's mind or attempt to. Even if Clockwork is like a machine and doesn't have like a conventional brain, then it still would be a thing where it's like I read the electrical signals and I try to understand what it means so that I can try and predict Clockwork's moves and wait for a moment in which I think Clockwork is vulnerable and then like kill Clockwork. Like turn into like a bolt of energy and like like just fucking like impale him. So that's a lot harder than just doing the Clockwork mirror match. The Clockwork mirror match would be my opponent's Clockwork. I just try to also turn into Clockwork, and we just see who dicks who. Because that's also a thing that you could do. Um, Clockwork, if he's more like a machine than like a living being, I could turn to upgrade and try and like overshadow Clockwork before he can do anything and just take control of him. I actually have seen an Omniverse upgrade overshadow clockwork, so that's possible. That actually is a thing that can be done. So that also might be like a thing I could try to do. Try and take over clockwork as upgrade, and then keep it from doing what it wants to do. Ryan said Time Wizard never stalls time, only uses time magic to age all the monsters on the field, which I do remember that. I remember Time Wizard's done that to like the harpies and to like dinosaurs before. And I remember it's like he ages baby dragon, but baby dragon only gets better with age and like stuff like that. Um, I do really like discussing like who would win in a fight and you guys' creative ideas for stuff. Kel said, "Oh, and I had an idea for the Ultimate Saiyan. The Saiyan is a constant state of Super Saiyan, and over the course of the fight, he gets stronger via Zenkais. Also, the ki flows through his muscles, making every physical attack simultaneously a ki attack. But the stronger he gets, the more bloodlusted he gets. That's interesting. He kind of ends up going into like a full-on berserker rage. When you mention that he's like uh constant state of Super Saiyan, when you said that, I remember saying something similar yesterday. Because what I imagined yesterday when you were like Ultimate Saiyan, Toriyama's like, the reason Super Saiyan works is that Saiyans have so many Super Saiyan cells in their body, and the more Super Saiyan cells you have in your body and you're like pure of heart, like the more like powerful of like a Super Saiyan you are. So I was like Ultimate Super Saiyan or Ultimate Saiyan or whatever, you probably have like 100% Super Saiyan cells. There's not like a single cell in your body that's not a Super Saiyan cell. So I really vibe with that concept of you're in a constant state of Super Saiyan because that's what I would have mentioned too. And then he said, "Wow, no one liking the stream." It actually went from 3 likes to 2 likes. Ryan said, Janucci almost won using Time Wizard, but Naiba used interdimensional matter transporter. So Joey versus Kaiba. Cool. And I imagine I've seen that duel because I've seen a good bit of like OG Yu-Gi-Oh, but I also have missed a good bit because I'm like in season 5 and I just haven't been watching. I just kind of stopped. And also, speaking of just kind of stopped, I still haven't like finished the GX manga. I don't know what chapter, excuse me, I was on. Um, I still haven't finished the Hunter x Hunter manga. Like I haven't gotten like caught up with it. Um, I need to get caught up on the Boruto manga. I'm pretty sure I am caught up on the Dragon Ball Super manga. Excuse me. Ryan said I finished the GX manga. Okay, ballin'. He said I added a bunch of GX manga cards on Dueling Book. Oh, that's cool. I did dig it. I like how in the GX manga he's able to turn into like the earth or whatever, and then he's like I tribute one of my elemental heroes, and then the earth gains like their like elemental attribute or whatever. I thought that was really cool. So like if I tribute like a fire elemental hero, now the earth is like this weird volcanic being or whatever. I thought that was like a really cool idea. Um, and I wish there was like a visual equivalent to that, like on the cards in some way. I was talking to Gerard earlier, and I was like, I really want a spiritual successor to Redakai, because Redakai was a card game where all the cards were holographic, so you could like tilt them like back and forth, and you would see like the hologram animate, and the player cards had like health bars on them. And what you did, because each card was like a clear holographic overlay, you could be like, my character transforms into a monster, and you place the transformation card down, and it looks like your character transformed into the monster. And you'd be like, well, I'm gonna attack my opponent, and you put an attack overlay card on your opponent, and then you see like their health bar go down, and if you tilt it, it animates and shows them getting hit by the attack. I was like, stuff like that actually seems like really cool. Um, I feel like it was like a cool gimmick that I'd like to see more of in the future. And then Ryan's like Elemental Hero Terra Firma manga. And then Ryan said they announced the newest Yu-Gi-Oh manga. And then Ryan said I didn't know much about it. What is the newest Yu-Gi-Oh manga? Also, I'm probably about to end the stream, so I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you like this video, make sure to smash that like button, favorite, comment, subscribe, and ding ding ding, ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we do these live streams. This is your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black One Only, logging out. Make sure to hit me up. We do these streams every day around like midnight. It's for pretty much all of us to just hang out and have discussions. Feel free to like ask me any questions, bring up any discussion topics, tell me about your day. I talk about like my day, and it's just more or less like a hangout. Thank you all once again.